A popular Instagram model and influencer, Miss Mercedes Moore, was found dead in her Houston area apartment, and authorities believe her death was the result of a murder-suicide. According to the medical examiner, she died of strangulation and a traumatic concussion. The man suspected of killing her, Kevin Alexander Accordo, 34, of Florida, was also found dead at the scene. He died from multiple sharp force trauma, which ruled his death a suicide. Police tell ABC 13 that there was no sign of forced entry, but that Gagnier did not appear to know her attacker. Let's talk about this tragic case in more detail. After becoming popular in nightclubs, Mercedes Mo Rose gained a lot of fans on the internet, with over 2.6 million followers on Instagram. She was often seen partying with famous people like Drake, Travis Scott, and Offset. As her fortune and success grew, she expanded her modeling career by joining OnlyFans, which made her fans want even more of her content. Everything was going great for the young model, and she even had plans to start her own clothing line. But then something terrible happened. An online stalker did something unimaginable, leaving everyone shocked and angry. Other influencers were scared for their own safety. What really happened to Mercedes, and why did the stalker do such a terrible thing? Janai Gagnier, known as Mercedes Moore, was born on November 9, 1987. She grew up in the Los Angeles area with her sisters. Her parents, Mark and Janessa, had spent time in the military before starting their own restaurant. Jana always had an interest in fashion and money, even as a child. Her parents' divorce when she was young led to frequent travel between California and Texas. This caused some problems, and she sometimes had conflicts with her parents. High school wasn't easy either, and she often got involved in drama with other girls. After graduating, she started college to become a dental assistant but left to move to Las Vegas with her boyfriend. There she began working as a dancer in a strip club, taking the name Mercedes Moore. Despite concerns from her parents, she started earning up to $5,000 every weekend. Over time, her parents grew more comfortable with her new career path. Janae's career took a turn when she entered the strip club industry, but she didn't want to stay there. Being smart and business savvy, she used the industry and its connections to boost her social media presence. Her popularity soared on Snapchat, Twitter, and especially Instagram. Mercedes, as she came to be known, started hanging out with celebrities like Travis Scott, Offset, and Drake, which made her even more famous. She eventually left dancing completely and focused on modeling and partying, including on OnlyFans, where users pay a monthly fee for various types of content. Some of this content is explicit. On top of this, Mercedes had big plans to launch her own products due to her success. On her different social media accounts, she planned to sell her own sportswear and hair extensions. Clearly, she was a smart and resourceful young woman. Mercedes had reached the peak of her career with over 2 million followers on Instagram, which is a huge achievement in the world of social media. But along with this success came some challenges. Although Jana had many suitors, most of them couldn't handle her job. They often asked her to quit modeling or her work on OnlyFans. Thankfully, she eventually found someone who accepted her for who she was, regardless of her profession. By the summer of 2021, she had even started making plans to move in with him. It wasn't typical for Jana to talk about marriage or kids with her partners, but her family noticed that things were looking up with the new guy. But unfortunately, and not because of her boyfriend, everything changed suddenly. Working in her industry, Jana faced serious security concerns. Being a model attracts a lot of attention, some of which can be really bad. In fact, Jana had her personal information leaked 4 years ago by a fan, which was really scary. With the internet full of people who don't respect boundaries, Jana no longer felt safe at her place and had to move. Although she didn't let mean comments bother her, she was afraid of being stalked. So, she was super careful about what she shared online and moved to a gated community called Sugarland Apartments in Houston. It seemed safe enough with moderate security and some fast food places nearby. But even with these precautions, it still wasn't enough for Jana, considering her past experiences with stalkers and doxing. She tried to be cautious, but some details, like her address, got out there. As you might expect, being famous means more exposure, and that can bring both good and bad attention. There are different ways to make your home safer, like living in a gated community, having security alarms and cameras, or choosing an apartment over a house. But despite taking these precautions, something terrible happened to Jana on August 29, 2021. Jana's father, Mark, had just come back from a fishing trip when he got a worrying call from his daughter. London? The family realized that Jana had been missing for several days, which was strange because she was very close to them. She used to call her father regularly, but there had been no contact for 3 days. She also hadn't posted on social media, which was very unlike her. Mark remembered their last conversation more than 10 days ago, on August 17th. During that call, she asked him to stay with her while her boyfriend was away. Given her past experiences, this request was understandable. Filled with worry, Mark went to Jana's home in Cortland, Sugar Land. There was no answer at the door, but her BMW was visible in the garage. Mark decided to break down the front door, and unfortunately, what he found inside was heartbreaking. At the bottom of the stairs, he discovered his daughter's lifeless body, with her leg twisted behind her and her clothes torn. There were traces of blood all over the place, in the form of drops and even puddles. As he explored the other rooms, the situation only got worse. Upstairs, Mark found a man he didn't recognize, clinging to life on the floor with a knife in his chest, which seemed to be self-inflicted. Looking at the walls, doors, and mirrors, he saw numerous notes written in lipstick or pens by this man, Kevin Ordor. One of the notes read, "I wish I never loved her. I should have stayed in Florida," was scribbled on another wall. Kevin had written, "I was used for money," and on a nearby door, "Sorry to the landlord and the community. I hurt a lot." Another note read, "Jana led me to think she cared about me, but wore another man's ring," revealing another clear motive behind the crime. Shortly after reading the words on the wall, Mark saw Kevin pass away. He stayed alive just long enough to hear Jana's father scream, "What did you do?" The responding officers confirmed Kevin's death, leaving Mark distraught. Jana's family was devastated by the news. Unfortunately, the internet added insult to injury when her case became the subject of misinformation. Rumors suggested that Mercedes Moore had died from COVID-19, rogue dancers in the industry, or even a violent sugar daddy. Having watched numerous videos posted after Mercedes' death, it's clear that the internet wasn't kind when the authorities released the real news. Silly rumors turned into heated discussions about her job and even blamed her for the industry she was in. While one of Jana's sisters hinted that Kevin had been stalking her, the exact duration remains unknown. It's believed that Jana had no idea who Kevin was and that their relationship was entirely one-sided. I've discussed parasocial relationships before and their dangers, especially when they become extreme. For those unaware, parasocial relationships are essentially one-sided connections where one person invests emotional energy, interest, and time, while the other is completely unaware of their existence. These types of relationships are most common with celebrities, organizations, or TV stars, much like the one you might have with Nero. The interview.
Incredibly tragic story here. We have learned new information that the 33-year-old social media model was strangled to death. That's according to the Fort Bend County Medical Examiner's.
The specifics remain unclear about what caused the tragic killing of 33-year-old Jana Gargar, popularly known as Miss Mercedes on social media, where she had 6 million followers.
We want to find out why her, why him.
The body of Jana Gargar was found inside her apartment in the Charlotte Sugarland complex on Sunday afternoon. The medical examiner determined that she died from a violent concussion and strangling. A second body was discovered in Richmond, and authorities are looking into it as a murder-suicide. According to the police, this individual owns it. Kevin F.O., 34, committed suicide by using various sharp objects.
Found her in her apartment doing a welfare check. People haven't heard from her in a couple days.
On Sunday, the woman's family requested a welfare check by calling the police. Father Gagné was with Gagné. When they made the horrific gesture, police discovered.
We're asking about the relationship between her and the suspect. And at this time,
Investigators would not share with us whether or not anything was.
Now, not much is known about Kevin, probably because he's a loser who doesn't deserve any recognition. But from what we do know, he was born in 1987, making him 34 at the time of Jana's murder. And even though he lived in Florida, he traveled to Texas on the sole purpose of finding her. Kevin had only minor traffic infractions on his record prior to this incident. Otherwise, he had no significant criminal history. The Fort Bend County Medical Examiner's Office conducted an autopsy on Jana, who died as a result of strangling and traumatic concussions after being murdered. This was the one blemish on his otherwise flawless records. Detectives working the site discovered Kevin had been inside the house for 2 to 3 days when he heard the front door being kicked down and then committed suicide. Given that there were no indications of a forced entrance, it is currently unknown how Kevin entered the building. Since Jana's apartment was on the second floor and there was only one route to get there, which involved a stairway, it is most probable that Kevin would have had to knock on the front door or garage before being let in, according to data forensics, which would indicate that Jana was not aware of the situation. Who Kevin was, and that there was no reason to think that they had friendship or even a two-way relationship before the day she was killed. Jana's family, friends, fans, and viewers were devastated by the news. She was usually the life of the party, so with her absence being so sudden, many didn't know how to handle their grief. Jana's death shocked those at the top too, with Drake and many others leaving tributes for their dear friend. This part of the investigation was apparently very extensive, according to the authority, citing a quote and having to go through hundreds of profiles owned by Jana. Tory Lanez shared a post online expressing, "Rest in peace, Queen," while Drake dedicated his entire album, Certified Loving Boy, to Jana and another victim of violence. The false rumors also triggered reactions from other celebrities, including Cardi B, who spoke out against those spreading hate. Meanwhile, Jana's family was both devastated and angered by Kevin's actions and the wider internet community amid the ongoing investigation. How did Jana get located? The method by which Kevin found Jana remains unclear, but there are several plausible theories. Jana charged her fans for exclusive content on her OnlyFans page, giving them the opportunity to send her money and gifts via mail. Although unconfirmed, it's currently believed that instead of using a PO box for these transactions, she used her home address. Kevin admitted to sending her money, suggesting this might have aided in tracking her down. Additionally, regularly visiting places and posting about them online might have been another way for Kevin to eventually locate her. Details in her photos, like her front door or the estate's swimming pool, could have potentially been used to verify her location through Google Maps or Street View. These are all speculative possibilities in Jana's case, emphasizing the importance of being cautious about what you share online and how it can potentially lead others to track you down. Although I would typically discuss the legal ramifications of this case, sadly, there are none due to Kevin Aoto's death. He was clearly a coward, and now that he's dead, he's taken everything. He carried legal justice to the grave. Although we will never know what he was thinking or experiencing in his final seconds before he passed away, we can only assume it was immense sorrow and pain as he gazed up at Jana's upset father. Had this occurred in the state of Texas, he would have probably faced life in jail. Jana, whether you agree with Jana's position in the OnlyFans industry as a whole or not, it is indisputable that she was extraordinarily shrewd in how she ran and expanded her several enterprises as an entertainer and a model. Jana was at the start of an explosive career. Being kind and hospitable to the fans while also keeping a safe distance from them was a challenging assignment for Jana. This responsibility alone can be a nightmare because of the exceedingly delicate balance it must maintain. Worldwide influencers in large numbers sister Jana now tries to avoid crowded places and lives in fear. The hurt of not being present for his daughter is still felt by her father. They'd always been close, even though they just lived a mile away. Although she was known as Mercedes to many, Jana was known as Jana Gaga to her family and loved ones, all of whom miss her terribly. Jana was described as being very sweet and having such a gentle personality. Her mother, Janetta, said that the family had experienced a great loss. She was quite well known in her own world and adored in ours. Her family recalls her as being compassionate, caring, hilarious, quirky, and always enjoyable to be around.
This shocking murder is still very much a mystery to so many of the people who showed up to the vigil tonight.
Millions of people followed Miss Mercedes Moore on social media. Among them famous people like Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion, and Drake. Drake even made the model the subject of his newest album today. Cardi B has reportedly been invited to G's memorial service, according to TMZ.
So funny and just so loving, and she just loved to
It
joke
would be all
around.
about her.
Yeah, as it is.
We wouldn't be.
The father of Jana remembers cautioning her in the past. Jana, you have a lot of fans, some of whom are undoubtedly fans of love, some of whom are admirers of appearance, some more insane, some obsessed, and ultimately, those fears would regretfully become a dreadfully gloomy reality. Anyone should be concerned about their safety online after reading Jana's Keeping Safe Online case. I won't leap out of a sponsorship, though, because it wouldn't be acceptable. However, this case does raise one important question. Are you doing enough to protect your privacy right now? You can take a number of measures to help keep yourself secure, and I ask that you consider them. It's a good idea to share photos of yourself in public places after you've left the area. But if the person is someone you visit frequently, you might want to think twice before doing so. Close and personal with your online buddies. Think twice before placing them somewhere where snoopers could access them. Be more precise than a big city or county, because that's where you live.